Okay, we're going to be taking a look at the Peloponnesian War, designed by Herman in 1991 and published by Victory Games. Now, back in 1991, I didn't pick up this game because a lot of the literature and information I had at the time sort of pushed the fact that it's really a solitaire game. And I didn't know that in a very obscure part here it says that it can be played 2 players and in a 3 to 7 player version. I didn't know that, and that might have made the difference for me. I am not really into solitaire games back then, and I still really am not now. But having purchased this in the last couple of months and played it a few times with friends in a 2-player game, I really like this game. So I do not think of this game as a solitaire game, but its solitaire origins are evident in the player aids. Now, the game is going to be reprinted. Actually, it's at the printers now. GMT is going to be taking it over, and I've downloaded the rules to the new version. So any discussion I make of the game in the video will assume 2 things. One, I'm using the new rules, virtually the same as the old though, and I will be we play just a 2-player version. I have not played this solitaire. But having said that, I don't play solitaire games. I think the solitaire system is about the best I've ever seen. I really like the way he's designed the solitaire game. And I'll make a few comments about that. But let's look at the board and the components and see what this fascinating game is all about. Let's start out with the artwork. You get some great artwork on the cover showing you 2 triremes going at it in the Peloponnesian War. As you know, the Peloponnesian War had a lot of naval elements to it. I like the artwork on the new box cover that they're going to use. Quite nice. And the new version apparently has got a new map and different graphics. So, what are the rules like? The rules are well written. They're fairly easy to follow. This is a detailed game. One little thing I didn't quite understand, they refer to rules 14 point something and all that, but the rules only go to 12, so I didn't quite get that. I looked in the historical commentary and no reference to it there. But the historical commentary booklet, by the way, is really well done. It's just straight history, no game stuff, but some great articles and some maps in here. So that booklet is well worth the price of admission. It's quite nice. The map is really nice. I like it. Shows the entire theater of war, including Sicily, and the Peloponnesus, the Peloponnesian League, and the Delian League, and the lands over to the east in Persia. Each space is rated for 3 different types. A circle means an island space. A triangle means a coastal space. And a square space refers to an exclusively land space. The red spaces are Sparta, part of the Peloponnesian League. Green are part of Athens, the Delian League. And white are neutrals. And we'll zoom in on the map so you can appreciate the graphics in it. I didn't see a graphic credit, which is very odd. I don't know who, maybe it's on the map here. No, it just says Victory Games Division of Avalon Hill. So I don't know who their in-house designer was or graphic artist was at that time. Anyway, the map is quite nice and the graphics are good too. Let's take a look at those counters. Now the game comes with counter trays, but it's one of the few games I felt I didn't need to use the trays. There's so few different counter types. We'll take a look at them and show you what they're like. Okay, there's your counters. Spartans on the left in red. These are your main Sparta hoplites. You've got your fleets here. Cavalry, very limited Spartan cavalry. And the ones with the white circle are Sparta and her allied. Athens has the exact equivalents. Silhouettes, little black silhouettes. Nicely done, simple. Hoplites, fleets, cavalry, and her allies. The special unit here, the little 3, is the Spartan Home Guard unit, which can never leave the Sparta space. We'll take a look now at some of the leaders. Okay, there's the leaders you get. That's it for the whole war. The war did last about 30 years, so it's covering quite a long period of time. So the bottom number is the strategic value of the leader. This affects things like who's going first and other game functions. The top number is the tactical battle influence when the leader does get into a battle, naval or land. There's no distinguishing between land or naval leaders in this game. Most of the ones we've known from history are there. The infamous Alcibiades, Thessalus, Demosthenes, Nicias, Thrasybulus, if I'm saying that right. Of course, Pericles, Phormio, and Cleon. For the Spartans, you've got Pleistonax, Lysander, Glyptus, Mindarus, Archidamus, Brasidas, Callicrates, and Agis. So they're all there, and you'll be drawing them from a pool of leaders, and we'll get into that in a moment. But the counters are quite simple but basic, and they look pretty good. I think I've seen the new ones. I think they show a picture of it in the manual here. Yeah, now this is just a copy of the manual for the new version. So they are upgrading the counters on them. They will look quite different. The manual, by the way, the new one, is quite colorful. It's better laid out than the old one. Far more illustrations. Let's take a closer look at the map. Okay, we'll take a tour of the map here. That's Sicily, Syracuse, the important city there in Italy. Now, in the games I've played, I have never had Syracuse get involved, except I think in our last game, Syracuse became involved in the last turn or so. So I have no experience playing on the Sicily front at all. You've got a nice counter key here, sample counters, telling you what each thing means. Name, tactical rating, strategic, so on. What the symbols mean. We'll go to the southern part of the Peloponnesus here. There is Sparta itself. Notice that it is not fortified. The Spartan army, Sparta was kind of conservative. They didn't need to build fortifications. They felt that their army was all they needed to protect them. Like I said, square boxes are land units, or land squares. Triangles are coastal, and a circle is islands. Here we've got Athens, of course, the Attica Peninsula, and the coastal town of Piraeus. Now, there's special rules for Athens and Piraeus. Of course, we know that in real life, Athens fortified the area between Athens and Piraeus, and it's very, very hard for the Spartans to isolate Athens, because with her harbor at Piraeus and free access to the Aegean Sea, it's difficult, but not impossible, to isolate Athens. Up there in Nabatea, got Thebes, good ally of Sparta. Up here into the plains area, and Larissa is sort of horse breeding country here. It's more open than the mountainous terrain of Greece, and that's where you get a lot of cavalry coming from. Of course, Pella in Macedonia, the eventual home of Alexander the Great and his father Philip. And this is another important town here, Epidamnos, because this city controls control over to Italy. If the Athenians control that, which they start the game with, they get an extra 1,000 talents if they can trace a line of communications back to Athens. Conversely, if Sparta is able to capture Epidamnos, it'll get, I think, 1,000 talents if it can trace an LOC back to Sparta. So this town becomes quite important. Over here on the Chalcidice, we've got the city of Potidea. That's sort of almost what triggered the war. The game begins in the middle of a phase with the Athenian player laying siege to Potidea, and then the Sparta player begins his turn. Over here, of course, up to the Hellespont, there's special rules for the Hellespont. The Athenians control Byzantium, and they will want to maintain control. If the Spartans ever get control of that, it's not very good for Athens. Now, it's hard to get up to that spot by sea because of these spaces here. with the Athenian fleet at Piraeus, any Spartan fleet trying to get into the Aegean has to possibly be intercepted by Athenian fleets here at Piraeus. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. So this part of the map is quite critical, very important. And of course the famous battle of Salamis was fought there prior to the Peloponnesian War. So, and over here in the islands, Greek islands, the Mertune Sea, and Rhodes, and what is present-day Turkey, Lydia in those days. Now in my game too, I didn't have Persia, only became involved very late in the game. But if Persian units are introduced, they come in here. Now in the countermix, there are no Persian units. So in the original edition of the game, this 1991 edition, you'd be using Spartan Allied as Persian units. I don't know if in the new game whether they have exclusive Persian units or not. Like I said, hopefully the new game will be coming out by this summer and we'll get to have a look. Now whether you're playing solitaire or the two-player game, each player will have their card here, the Athenian strategy matrix and the Spartan strategy matrix. Most of this is used for the solitaire game, where the bot, you'll be rolling to see what strategy it uses against you. Again, I have no experience with that. I've always played it as a two-player game. Important here, though, is the Athenian treasury. You'll be moving these Athenian treasury markers up and down as you spend money. The strategy confidence index, you want to keep that positive. And the bellicosity track, your attitude towards the enemy, you want to keep positive. Now, if your enemy gets your bellicosity down to 0, you've lost the game. So you must keep this up. And the strategy confidence index modifies the bellicosity track. And how are those changed? Well, they are changed by winning or losing battles, land or naval. So if you win a battle on a spot, you gain 10 victory points, and your enemy loses 15 points. So you have to keep track of points on a special sheet that comes with the game. I'll show you that. That's the victory point record sheet, going up to turn 10. And you'd use this little part here, scratch paper, to write down pluses and minuses as you gain or lose battles. They give you a current score, a net game score, and there's also random events which you can record here. So this sheet is kind of useful. But I think in the new version, I believe they're going to have a victory point track on the left, I think. I think so, anyway. Okay, you get a gazetteer of the Athenian towns, because I'm not up in my Peloponnesian War geography. I don't think too many people know where the town of maybe Nemea is, or Cleone. So you've got this great little gazetteer where you just look it up and then you cross-hatch a grid and you can find the towns fast. We found ourselves pretty well having to use this all the time. We knew where Sparta and Athens was and some of the other important places, but some of the obscure towns you'll need the gazetteer to find them. Each turn you'll be rolling on the random events table. This is just a copy from the rules. Base 12 system, so you've got various events that will occur. You just do them. Rebellions, maybe Persia will get in on it, maybe Syracuse will enter. So you'll be doing this once per turn, these random events, which will certainly modify the game. Now the game comes with a player aid summary, and I can't stress enough, more than any other game I have ever played, you must follow this sequence of play absolutely to the letter. You can't deviate from it one bit. Every single line in here must be checked for. Now it looks rather daunting. You look at this thing and go, whoa, each turn is quite involved. Well, it is, but that's the beauty of the game too. If you just strictly follow the game turn sequence, eventually you'll get it. I know when you play your first game, certainly for me and my friend and my son too, we didn't know what the heck we were doing. We were following the sequence of play and doing everything it says, but we weren't really getting what the end result was going to be. Trust me, it'll make sense in the end, but you just have to trust the designers sequence of play. Just do what it says, nothing more, nothing less, and you'll get it. But it is quite a detailed game. It's a good game on the Peloponnesian War, and currently my favorite. I have played Athens and Sparta by Columbia. I have tried Hellenes, and I've looked at the Epic of the Peloponnesian War by Clash of Arms, and found that game far too detailed for its own good. So I'm very glad I got this game, and I think it's going to be the game I'm going to play on the Peloponnesian War when I feel like playing a game on the Peloponnesian War. Okay, as I mentioned, or maybe I haven't mentioned, each turn represents 2 to 3 years, so it's quite a long time period here. And that's why when you do an operational turn, you can move so far. Now this takes some getting used to. Us wargamers are used to moving, units point to point, 3 or 4 spaces. This game is entirely different, and this is shows you how Mark really has some innovative systems going on here. He really thinks outside the box. But it does take some getting used to, and you must read the sequence of play very carefully, and the rules have got to be read very carefully too. So I'll try to show you a typical Spartan move. I've just put some random units on the board here. This isn't necessarily the optimum move, it's just to show how generally troops move. What you do is you start off in the operational phase by your leaders are in a opaque cup. Spartan leader draws a leader randomly, and in this case we get Brasidas. He's a good commander. Okay, so Brasidas has a tactical value of 2 and a strategic value of 2. The first thing you do when you do the operations phase is you take the operational objective and place it anywhere on the board where you want to march to, what your objective is in the game. And now I'll pick something simple, and I can try to show you some of the interaction that occurs. Let's say I pick the town of Plataea here as the objective. So that's the objective. Brasidas must march to Plataea. In doing so, he's allowed to gather as many troops as he can before he goes to the objective. And you must take the shortest route always to the objective. And when there's more than one route to choose from, you have to roll a die to see which route is optimal. Well, for Brasidas, let's say he takes 3 Spartans here, and he decides to move up to at least Corinth. Okay, now at Corinth, to get to Plataea, there's 2 different routes. Could go by way of Pege, Panactum, Plataea, or Pege, Megara, Panactum, Plataea. Nope, actually, it's simpler than that. You have to take the most direct route. So he has to go to Pege, then Panactus, then he can go to Plataea. Now here at Attica, we've got an Athenian cavalry, which you may want to intercept. You roll a die, and if you get a 5 or 6, you get to intercept. We get a 2, so the cavalry does not intercept, and Brasidas can continue on to Plataea. Now, when you're moving along the route, you're allowed to collect men. Now, when he went by Corinth, he could pick up a fella. So we'll say he picked him up. Now, when you're picking up men, that's called gathering. You cannot devastate a square while you're still gathering. That's why I didn't devastate Panactum. Once I've gathered the Corinthians, I go to Plataea. I've now got my force. I'm on the objective hex, and I can take one of these ravaged markers here and mark the space as ravaged, which will help Sparta in the end. And that's the Spartan turn. The Spartan turn is over. Now that's a typical move. Now note also that I could have just as easily picked an objective square way up here for Salus, or even up here, anywhere. You can go pretty well anywhere you want on the board when you pick your objective hex, subject to interception by enemy units. So the movement is quite liberal. That takes some getting used to. What I had a hard time with at first, it totally jives with the history, is the Spartan fleet. The Spartan fleet usually starts here at Gallithium, And I find it very hard to get by the Athenian fleet. For example, if you wanted to get to here, you would have to take the most direct route. So most direct route is here, and Aegina. Now, fleets can interdict 2 spaces away, so the Athenian fleet could roll here to see if he interdicts the Spartan fleet. He'd roll a die. In this case, he would not interdict. Spartan fleet would go to Aegina. The fleet could try to intercept again. And this time, he does intercept. And you'd go through the skirmish and potential battle procedure. So it's this interactivity of all the units which makes this game come alive, even with a 2-year time span. Now, there's much I've left out. There's all kinds of sub-phases where you're laying siege to cities and resolving sieges, skirmish procedure, interception. There's a lot to this sequence of play. That's why it's so detailed. So in a short video just trying to introduce you to the system, I can't possibly, tell you everything there is about this game. Just that it's a gem of a game. It's really good, and I'm very glad to see it in print. So if you're thinking about getting this game, you might want to hang on till the new one comes out. The old one still is available. I know that. I've seen it on eBay and stuff like that. It's not that rare a game, but with the new one coming out, you might as well just wait till the new one comes out. I didn't feel like waiting. I wanted to try the game, so I got it. And I've been playing with the new rules, so any comments I said, again, are based on this, the new rules and stuff, which is virtually the same as the old. Apparently the new edition has a few extra counters and another scenario or 2. So anyway, that's it for Peloponnesian War, game designed in 1991, and I like it very much. Thank you for watching.